Welcome to the Flag Bearer channel. This is Little Known Black History Facts. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. 22 years before the birth of the National Hockey League, there existed the Colored Hockey League, a league of all black hockey players in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Their contributions to the sport of hockey have long been hidden. This is their story. Nova Scotia is considered the place of origin of modern ice hockey. The quantity of natural ponds ideal for skating helped in the development and creation of the game now known as Canadian hockey. But early African Canadian players also helped shape the sport. By the mid-1890s, in an era when many believed blacks could not endure the cold, these African Canadian athletes defied myths and developed a revolutionary style of hockey that was fast-moving, tough, acrobatic, exciting, and entertaining. The Colored Hockey League produced players and athletes comparable to any in Canada. These Black Nova Scotians changed this winter game from the primitive gentleman's pastime of the 19th century to the modern fast-moving game of today. Led by skilled and educated leadership, the Colored League emerged as a premier force in Canadian hockey and supplied the resilience necessary to preserve a unique sports culture that still exists. The Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes is one of hockey's best-kept secrets. In 1895, the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes was formed in Halifax, Nova Scotia. This was 25 years before the Negro Baseball Leagues in the United States and 22 years before the birth of the National Hockey League. The Colored League would emerge as a premier force in Canadian hockey and supply the resilience necessary to preserve a unique culture which still exists to this day. Unfortunately, their contributions were conveniently ignored or simply stolen, as white teams and hockey officials, influenced by the Black League, copied elements of the black style or sought to take self-credit for black hockey innovations. It was the black hockey players in the latter half of the 19th century whose style of play and innovations helped shape the sport, effectively changing the game of hockey forever. Black hockey dates back to the early black history in Nova Scotia, going back almost 100 years. Among the first reports of hockey being played occurred in 1815 along the isolated northwest arm south of Halifax. The date is important for the simple fact that as late as October 1815, the region was not home to a large white settlement, but instead was the site of a small black enclave. 4 black families, originally from the Chesapeake Bay area, with a total of 15 children, had relocated and settled on the arm. The Colored Hockey League was founded in 1895 by a group of 4 Black Baptist leaders and black intellectuals. The league was constructed to attract young black men to Sunday worship with the promise of a hockey game between rival churches after the services. Baptist church leaders believed all-black hockey would be a great way to attract young black men to church and to strengthen their religious path. They used the sport as the catalyst. The league was based on faith and emphasized sportsmanship and athleticism. The league used the Bible as their rule book. Games became community events that brought mixed audiences together in the stands and post-game meals between black players from different communities. With the influence of the black nationalism movement and with rising interest in the sport of hockey, the league came to be seen as a potential driving force for the equality of black Canadians. Games between black club teams were arranged by formal invitation. Despite hardships and prejudice, the league would exist until the mid-1920s. Historically speaking, the Colored Hockey League was like no other hockey or sports league before or since. The league would in time produce a quality of player and athlete that would rival the best of white Canada. Such was the skill of the teams that they would be seen as worthy candidates for local representation in the annual national quest for Canadian hockey's ultimate prize, the Stanley Cup. At its peak, the league had teams in 7 communities in Nova Scotia and 1 in Prince Edward Island. With as many as a dozen teams, over 400 black Canadian players from across Nova Scotia participated in competition. Teams were only permitted arena access after the white leagues had finished their seasons. As a result, official league games were generally conducted between late January and early March. At that point, the natural ice surface had become too poor to conduct matches. Due to a limited 8-week playing window, championships included only the select 3 or 4 top regional teams. They participated in a half-dozen games, each to determine top honors. Inevitably, disputes arose as to which teams were given the rights to officially compete for a championship. Games were played with no official rules other than the Bible. The result was, ironically and unintentionally, a more physical and innovative style of hockey. By all accounts, championship games were on par with the best of the white teams. League play was known to be fast-moving and robust. Unfortunately, there are few records kept of the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes, with few references to the innovations that players brought to the early game of hockey, such as their aggressive style of play. Techniques such as goaltender dropping to his knees, credited to Henry Brace's Franklyn, and what may have been an early form of the slapshot, credited to Eddie Martin, as well as leaving their nets to participate in scoring, credited to Fred Borden, were displayed prior to their use in professional hockey league play. This practice was not permitted elsewhere until the formation of the National Hockey League in 1917. The meteoric rise of the Colored Hockey League reached its zenith between 1900 and 1905. There were hundreds of players and more than 12 teams. Games often outdrew those of their white counterparts. The advent of World War I, the 1917 Halifax explosion, dramatic changes in Nova Scotia's economy, the loss of indoor ice time, and racism all played a role in the demise of the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes. In the first 5 years of the 20th century, a dispute over expanded rail service to the port of Halifax caused many black hockey players and their families in Africville, the black community in Halifax, to be at odds with provincial and city officials over a proposed railroad annexation of their land. A 5-year legal battle ensued. During the legal battle, some rink owners refused to rent to the league or to any black teams. Other rink owners agreed to only do so in late March when the natural ice surface was already beginning to melt. Local newspaper coverage of the league also disappeared, virtually overnight. With the poor playing surface slowing the game and no means of promotion, the league was forced back onto local ponds. This effectively killed the Colored Hockey League as an economic and social black movement. In 1921, the Colored Hockey League was reformed with 3 teams. Although it reemerged to some prominence, its social and religious aims were largely forgotten. All the original church and intellectual organizers were by this time deceased. After 1925, teams came and went. New teams formed, sometimes for only brief periods, only to disappear as quickly as they had emerged. News coverage also faded away again as attention shifted from regional leagues to the National Hockey League. Nonetheless, the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes changed the way hockey was seen and played in early Canada. Today, there are no monuments to the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes. There is no reference to the league in any but a few books on hockey. There is no reference to the scores of players who wore the colored league uniforms. There is no reference in the Hockey Hall of Fame of the impact that blacks had in the development of the modern game of hockey. No reference to the black origin of the slapshot. There is no reference to the black origin of the offensive style of goal play. There is no reference to the black origin of goalies going down on ice in order to stop the puck. There is no reference to the black practice of entertaining the crowds with a halftime show. It is as if the league had never existed. The CHL flourished until World War I, but the league collapsed, and it was pretty much forgotten about. The innovations that came out of the league were later credited to white players, and the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto did not recognize the accomplishments of the league. The most noted moment of blacks in hockey happened when Willie O'Ree broke the color barrier in the National Hockey League in 1958, even though black players greatly contributed to the game years before the NHL existed. Until next time, If you like little known history facts as I do, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Press the bell to be notified of future uploads. Thank you for watching.